sorry, so that value, no one said this. So that valuing such that you appreciate it and then put it in a place where you're unable to appreciate it. So then the more you go out, you wanted it, the more you go out, you don't have any want anymore. It leaves you in a state actually not of fulfillment, but rather non-awareness, which is what happens with kids, which is then how they play back and forth how to have sex with kids. Because they want more slaves. This is how you make slaves. So you put it in a place where you cannot value it. You call that value. That's how you get the debtor's bottom of that which is the bank. Put it in a place that you cannot value it and then value it. You can't touch those things. So then you have this entire bubble market of, I have one painting by, what's his face? Not Picasso, the guy who cut his ear off. Vincent. I have one painting by Vincent, which is beautiful in whatever its form is, but its worth after our value goes up and down depending on what's happening in the bubble. So now this painting here, why is an autographed book by Snooki going for more money than this? Then they cry a moral uproar. Our soul has been ripped out of the garbage. There is a depreciation, and it's due to the slaves, these lower class bullshitters. So how are we going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to smother them. We're going to treat them like kids. So that then they can say, whenever it all fails, I did the best I can. I love you. And then have it reverb somewhere in your chest so that you keep walking that way. Which is backwards, which is alien, which is unconstitutional. And then whenever you bring all this up and expose it, they say, oh no, we're not held to that. Because nothing. And then the nothing that they're referencing, they're betting on you to then say that in this good equals bad chain from 3 seconds ago, that then this thing is the same thing as this thing. Fact is that in modern terms, people could make themselves believe that through efforts of faith, that is unlearning in European senses. That is unlearning, that is default, that is saying, I give up, I quit. The sinner's prayer bullshit. However, the physical reality is that this nothing is different from this nothing. This nothing over here, the Antichrist nothing, is like you fart into a hole and then it's where the fart was. And then as it turns out, after that, the whole air is a fart, which isn't true. As opposed to then this context over here, which is actual deep space, where we come from, how we were created, and is the nothing that is, in fact, the everything, which is what you get in exchange for that. You no longer want things as that you have them. You have accomplished this. You're not a slave wants what it cannot have. You understand? So now what we're going to do is run up this capitalist drumbeat and say, you're not a Jones if you don't have this car. You need a vaccine. Open up your veins, before the black folk take over. And then terminology of taking over is actually just equal rights. Or actual rights is the real terminology. Because then going on forward, whenever we look at things in huge potentialities, people who have more money have a better chance of getting out of and being found innocent of a crime than people who have no resources. But at least it's all on the same level at that point, at which point the government could dump things like social reform to the point that there's nobody in jail. I don't actually have to send a mano foot soldier all the way to each and every single thing that the court doesn't want to talk about, kids or whatever the fuck. I don't have to do that. I can just simply sit there at my tower and then issue a one-page report that says essentially the same thing, like the DHS-5, the psychological outline. They come out with that every so often. And it completely reforms the way that healthcare, in a sense, interacts with jail, is the real debate. But then that whole thing gets siphoned off to the point that this isn't healthcare, this isn't a crime, this is etc. Can't have this, this is no good. All the way to the point that these things are different. And then when these things are different, then this whole fallacy of keeping kids as kids. We're going to keep you dumb, and that's keeping you safe. We're here to serve and protect you by being the ones who attack you. Then this whole context of, quote, domination, which is a giant-ass lie, gets thrown in the can. Thing is, so do all the gangs. The only person that wins this war is the government. Even when there's no one at the government and all the gangs are on the same side, the government still wins. That's what the U.S. military is sworn to, practically by default. And they're better. The military can kick your ass. They just needed political clearance, which I took care of. They're here now. We're just more or less biting our nails to figure out basically what's the best number. How economically or efficiently can I accomplish closer to that where we should be is the actual mission. Has nothing to do with Iraq. Has things to do with Islam, but all of that was taken care of in an actual holy field, not with bullets and at gunpoint and torture and whatever. None of that worked. That itself is terror. The terrorism against the terrorism, just like anarchy is a religion against religions. It ends up at materialism and militarism. And those people are fucking tight assholes. And then they end up fucking federalists. They end up white trash. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, value, sorry. So, as we're valuing something, and then after we make sure that we can't value, we appreciate it, and now we'll value it, its worth is based on not what it is, but how many people have access to it. In a capitalist economy, the rule of thumb is you are paid based on how many people can perform your job. There's not too many brain surgeons out there, nor rocket scientists, nor real actual philosophers, for instance. There's a lot of people who can push a broom and jump on a shovel. It doesn't mean that those works are non-essential. It doesn't mean that farming is less honorable than being a doctor. It's just that there's more people who would theoretically be able to farm than perform laser surgery. If it's not a necessary task like farming or health, there's not a job created for it. Hi, I'm really good at hoping that there's aliens and I'm working on myself, and then I want to take that to the drugstore and get paid for it with my emotions. The reason we're not doing that is because with the whole paying for emotions, they did that, paying with emotions once upon a time, they did that, and then the people who preferred justice overran the fuck out of the people who were corrupt who initiated it initially. So a revolution, but on like terms, eye level with the people who fucked it up. And they were operating under the Illuminati field of, so long there's something to fuck up, that means it's good, which is bullshit. You can't draw a number off of that, and then it's from the inability to draw a number off that John Roberts mean becomes the center point of this. How mean can I be to somebody who's totally innocent for the sake of keeping this cycle going? This cycle is cannibalism. It's internationally and universally outlawed. If there's one law on planet Earth, it's do not be a cannibal. There's cannibal spiritualists, there's cannibal black guys, there's cannibal anything. And AI is the management of this. This whole sequencing and cycle, this schedule is produced by AI. The utilization of this schedule might take it one step back, but also puts it 2 steps forward. So then in the point of the 1 step back versus the 1 step forward, they say, 1, that they're equal, and 2, nothing happened. But then just moved forward like that. That is your rights being taken away. That is the aristocracy capitalists using you like a battery / fertilizer. And then to say that, they want to count that as treason to preserve the wonder, that is the unknown quality, which then amounts all the way out that end to that false gravity. which doesn't produce anything but itself, which is essentially non-awareness in a can. And then they go and try that and it sucks. And then they get upset with their system and then look at the government and demand the government come fix their system and then orchestrate something else in that leaf out. They've been doing this forever to be wrong so that you then continue to attack it. So that then they can say in self-defense or I'm scared, I have to go over here. It's the government. It's the government that's infringing on my... No, it isn't. It isn't. It's the capitalists. It's the fascists. It's the kikes.